pace of appointments in perspective for us between what Biden has done so far with the federal courts and what President Trump was able to do in the same amount of time?
Right. Well, I mean, people talk about the number of judges that Trump put on the bench, and he did put a lot on. But what most people don't understand is how far the courts were out of whack before he came into office. At the end of Trump's administration, he had just been able to bring the courts into rough balance politically. The Republicans control 7 circuits, the Democrats control 6. But as you mentioned already, Biden's been at record pace. There's been no modern president that's appointed successfully as many federal judges to either the appeals court or to district courts as he has during, this time up to September. And, it's the people that he's been putting on have been very radical type individuals. Often when I see a case being decided by the lower courts, one of the first things I look at is who appointed the judge. And it's pretty much a perfect predictor. I mean, just looking at the outcome, I can guess, in particular if it's on a hot button topic, even before I find out who nominated that judge, I can pretty much guess who did so.
It's funny because you bring that up in your article about a couple years back when Chief Justice John Roberts, he tried to criticize President Trump, and usually we don't see that. But of course, during President Trump's administration, everyone seemed to be happy with breaking the norms to kind of, take their swipe at President Trump. And so in this case, it was the Chief Justice, and he was like, oh no, we don't say that there was Obama judges or Clinton judges or Bush judges and stuff. And of course, like you're saying, we all know that's not the case. We all know that, of course, as we're seeing right now with Democrats and Republicans, they fight over who gets to appoint who to what court. So obviously it is a big deal, exactly as you were saying. But you would think Republicans would want to be a lot more of, at least trying to stand in the way of Democrats and Biden in all of these appointments. But as you pointed out in your article, there are some Republicans who seem to be helping Biden along with appointing all these judges. Is that correct?
Well, Lindsey Graham has pretty much voted straight down the line for Biden's judges. Look, I'm not expecting or wanting people to go and do things to judges like what happened to Kavanaugh or what happened to Clarence Thomas or other things. I mean, that was very despicable, horrible, destruction of people that go on with that. But that doesn't mean you can't go and explain that you have real concerns about some of the political types. I mean, people who spent their careers engaged in political actions, getting on to some of the highest courts in the country here. It's going to have a real impact. And, I don't know why they can't fight more on those types of issues, but I guess it's a decision some of them have made.
That's exactly right. And part of me, a little voice in the back of my head says that Republicans like to lose because I think they like to be in the, I think they like to be in the opponent position. They like to be able to kind of lob the fireballs and talk tough on TV, but not actually expect anyone to think that they're going to do something about it, because it's a good fundraising tool to not actually fix any of your problems. You can keep going on TV and say, can you believe those Democrats now give me more money? I'm never going to fix anything. But of course, that's the broken cycle we see in politics. But of course, that's my cynical self talking. But when we see a lot of these judges being appointed to these positions, and now there are Biden judges joining the courts with all these Obama judges that we had and all these Clinton judges that we had, do you fear what the future will portend for us when it comes to especially our Second Amendment rights?
Right. Well, look, I mean, Democrats seem to be able to raise lots of money by winning. I don't know why you can't also win lots of money by winning and saying, look, if we don't win again, these are the types of things that are going to happen. I mean, just what I wrote about in the piece, just look at the decision this past week on the CDC moratorium on evictions. Biden, other members of the administration, Democrats generally, didn't think that they had a real leg to stand on in terms of the Constitution. Just having the Centers for Disease Control deciding we're going to ban evictions. I mean, where did they get that power? You had 6 justices, though, on the Supreme Court who said that the CDC didn't have the power, but it broke down by purely political lines. The 3 Democrats that were on the court all agreed with Steve Breyer, who wrote the dissent. And, it's pretty much the CDC could do anything that they want to do. He took a law that was relevant for the Surgeon General and applied it to the Centers for Disease Control, which basically said if they have a good medical reason, they can do pretty much anything that they want to do. How a ban on moratorium for evictions would have to do with the spread of the coronavirus isn't exactly obvious. I mean, are these people only staying in their apartments? Are they not allowed to go out anyway? Is this the only reason why they would end up being outside their apartments, because they have to move to a different place? It's just not serious, and the CDC didn't even try to make an argument for that. And Breyer says, well, they were only targeting it to certain areas of the country. It wasn't a broad rule. They initially had it for 80% of the counties in the country, and by the time the Supreme Court saw it, it was at 90%. And that's in the counties that they're primarily going after were the more urban, heavily populous counties. So the percentage of the population that it actually covered was probably, near 100%. And so, to say, well, they targeted it, it just doesn't pass the laugh test on this type of thing. So but it just shows the extreme to which judges have been willing to go in order to obtain certain desired political ends, even further than the politicians thought. I mean, one of the telling comments that Biden had made on that was, he said, well, we'll be reversed, but it'll be so long before the Supreme Court's able to go and deal with this that we'll pretty much accomplish what we want to accomplish anyway. That doesn't sound like somebody who even tries to make the argument that they're trying to obey the law and the Constitution that's there.